And so going to Renew was a good step in our journey together. And we're actually going to be going to Rise Up together too.
Right.
So that's something to look forward
That's
to.
in Calgary today. I mean, this year.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, man.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm from Edmonton, but
Yeah. That's right. So that's like 3 hours away.
Yeah. Were you born in Edmonton?
I was. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your ethnicity?
My ethnicity?
Yeah.
Like my family's heritage?
Yes. Who are you?
Ooh.
Well, those are two very different questions, aren't they?
Indeed they are.
Answer both.
Well, my family is has Irish background, has a German background, has an English background.
So you are European.
I am of European descent. Yeah.
Honestly, when I meet like white people, I'm like, "What are you?" They're like, "We're just Europe." It's never just really just, "Oh, I'm 100% Irish." It's it's much more rarer, isn't it?
What is?
Like to find someone just 100% of that, like one.
Country.
I mean,
One
if
country,
if you went to Europe, I'm sure.
I'm sure you'd find.
But
yeah.
when it comes to like being in Canada, I think it's
I think.
Like-
I mean, if you look at the
demographic.
just the, I guess just the length of time that the immigrants who came from like white Europe, I guess, the length of time that they've been here, I guess it's just been more blended. It's had more time to blend, right? And so I feel like, 100 years, 200 years from now, like,
There's no.
is there going to be like some big hot pot?
I think we're all gonna be like yellow or something or beige.
So
Yeah.
Filipino.
Yeah, maybe.
Gorgeous Filipinos.
Filipino. Okay. Anyways.
Right. So moral relativism. Dr. Ed actually had, I think, 6 points that he presented, but actually only really talked about four or something.
Yeah.
And
You have.
yeah, and I tried
there?
to take some notes here, right? So the first one he talked about is like law equals love. And particularly, I think he was speaking in scope of like a Catholic, perhaps speaking to a non-Catholic or even a Catholic who is struggling with understanding what the faith is saying about a certain topic, right? And I think he was also speaking about how when God was giving us the law of how to live, of how to be, it was coming from love, not from limiting our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really, he loved us so much that he gave us these laws so that we could live fully,
Yeah.
right? And
I think like I think he used like two examples. One of them was like sports.
mhm,
Like sports has rules, right?
Hmm.
For you to enjoy the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have those rules, you're not gonna enjoy the
Right.
game. If you played basketball but you double dribbled and traveled the whole time,
which, by the way, happens, and like
it
sucks.
takes the
Ruins
fun
the
out of
game.
it.
Yeah,
It
right.
ruins the fun for not only you but for
Yeah.
everyone else.
yeah,
And so, in a way, when we look at law in that scope, then we see that it's not only for the love of for us, but also those around us.
yeah,
Like, thou shalt not kill. Like, that's for the safety of not only for me, but for
Yeah.
Connor,
yeah,
right? It's for
Totally.
everyone.
totally, man, totally.
Yeah. But then what happens if that becomes relative? Like, oh, yeah, like
Mm.
killing is okay for me, but not for Connor.
Wait, why not? Why not?
That's
yeah,
what
right?
Connor believes.
Right.
I see.
Yeah.
You know, then that's where we get gray.
Yeah. And I think he also said this statement here: indifference is not love. And I feel like that's huge, especially in this day and age. A lot of my friends, if we're talking about something that's kind of spicy, kind of juicy,
Like chicken.
complicated or complex. Let's say complex. By the way, guys, I say spicy and juicy for complex things. So you'll get it. You'll get it as you get it. Yeah, they're just indifferent about it. They're like,
Yeah.
well, whatever. Doesn't affect me.
But
all of a
really,
sudden,
does
yeah.
it? It doesn't. Like, I feel like in some way, shape, or form, it will.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. Like, all our actions really play a factor in everyone else's lives.
Yeah.
And, like, it's like a ripple effect, you know?
And sometimes these thoughts are like actually a reflection of what's going on inside, right? Like, for example, I mean, I don't want to say that this is the case, but, perhaps they're indifferent about something because they've experienced it, or it's been really traumatic. They've kind of filed it away to never get back to it, and they could maybe just say, I don't want to think about it.
Yeah,
I'm indifferent to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ed said, you know, indifference is not love, and I feel that like that really resonates within me, man. Because when you love someone and you see them make a mistake, and this goes back to the point of coming from love, you can correct them lovingly, or you can correct them like from a tyrannical point of view, right? And you always want to approach it with love, right? Always want
do
to
everything in love.
Yeah. Even
Definitely.
Even if it's telling someone that maybe
what you're doing
is wrong. Yeah.
Probably the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And also for the other person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really like it really takes love for you to really do that, to really correct someone. Because most often the case, sometimes we're just okay with just letting things slide because we care more about the friendship or the relationship with the person than the person himself or herself. Right? Like sometimes when you know someone's in a bad relationship, for example, like sometimes you won't tell them that they're in a bad relationship because you don't want your relationship with that person to be bad itself in a way. So I'm not going to tell you you're in a bad relationship because I still want to have a good relationship with you.
Right.
But once I say it, we might not have a good relationship. But are you really loving that person?
Yeah.
If you do that, you're not.
No, that's a great point, man.
If anything, you're being indifferent, which is not love.
Yeah.
Yeah. This kind of ties into the feedback conversation we're having.
Right.
Yeah.
If you just let them kind of go, they'll never get better. And if you don't tell them properly or with love that you know you could do better, they'll never get better either, right?
Yeah. But also, if you don't like do it out of love, like loving correction, other people might take it the wrong way and just be like, "Hey, no, I'm not going to listen to you."
Yeah. I mean, I also think like within friends, within like really close friends or family, you know, like different people serve different kind of roles, I guess, in your kind of feedback circle, I guess, I would think, right? Like I wouldn't necessarily go to my family if I'm looking for technical feedback, right?
Yeah.
And equally so, I wouldn't go to my like workplace and ask about like relationship advice and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so
yeah, there's
different
that.
there's different loves. There's different kinds of love, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think, right?
Totally.
But we can all agree indifference is not love.
Is not love, right? Yes. And like moving on to the second point he makes is like making judgments versus judging someone's soul, right? Whenever this
was like, I think it hit a lot of people when they heard this.
I think this was a big one, right?
Where he would say like, you can judge someone's actions, but you can't really judge their soul.
Yeah.
And then he even went further along in saying you can judge someone's moral disposition, but you can't judge their soul. Like, you don't know what's happening in their heart, but obviously when we decide to do things or our inclination to do things, there is a moral objectivity to it.
Yeah.
And I think that really shook a lot of people. They're like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Is that true?
In these, you know, in these spicy conversations that we have, like for example, abortion or something, I think a lot of times people say, "Oh, you know, you're judging that person for their actions, right?" Or, but really, we are judging sort of the action, right?
Because it's a fruit of
it is, like, and I think at some point you can objectively say like a life is ceasing to exist. Right. So it depends on, I guess, where you draw that line, right? With that, but that's another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, right? And that leads them to indifference because they feel like, okay, if I open up about this, or if I tell them, oh, this person's going about it the wrong way, and if I do it without love, they're going to take it as, oh, they're judging me, right? Or I'm judging them, right?
Yeah.
I think I really like this. I think it kind of really like opens up the idea of what it means to judge. And I think like on the one hand, it's like it it can be seen as like really like has a lot of like negative stigma where it's like, oh, people judge me for who I am. But if you kind of open up and you accept that, like, okay, yes, people judge you, but they're not like condemning you. They're not they're not
saying,
judging
hey,
your soul.
you're going to hell.
Yeah. And that there's a distinction between that. And I think that's really important because I think like there is a big difference between that. And I guess maybe accepting that too, like for like anyone, realizing that you can have that like different judgment of someone and like, you know, where you see them in the bigger picture of things, I guess, too. So
yeah.
I like it.
Relativism is not neutral.
So that's the third point.
That's the third point. And this was pretty interesting too. Sometimes, you know, we can look at, and I think this also ties into sort of indifference. And we look at indifference as being, I'm neutral to the situation, right? But relativism is actually a point of view. It's a point of looking at a situation. It's not saying I'm neutral, right?
Just like saying like all it takes for bad men to succeed in the world is like, you know, good people to do nothing,
right?
Kind of thing,
right?
Yeah.
All right.
I think Dr. Edward Sri was saying like it's a lens that people put on, but they say it's not a lens of like this is like what I think.
Yeah.
But it's really, it ties into, I think, like the fourth point, which is, you know, relativism is a mask.
Yeah. And he actually told us a crazy, kind of a crazy story with this one guy he was speaking to. You remember it?
Before we get into it, could you define relativism?
You know what? I don't want to define it.
Why don't we look at Google? Gaggle.
Relativism. Definition. Okay, here we go.
Something being relative to?
It's a doctrine.
Oh.
So
relativism. Relativism.
Okay. The doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute.
So saying that it's not absolute, are they saying that that's an absolute?
Right.
Right? Like, aren't they? Isn't that what they're trying to define? That it's not
it's a
absolute,
doctrine.
so like,
this is just a doctrine, right?
Yeah. So that's why it's a lens.
Yeah.
That's why it's a lens that
it's
people,
a point of view.
Yeah,
right?
that people put on, thinking that it's not
in relation to culture or society.
Yeah. So it's not that like it's not. So it's not really neutral because it's a standpoint. It's a view, right? So you actually are taking a stand.
Yeah.
But you don't know that you are because most people aren't educated that it is a viewpoint.
Yeah. So he was talking to, or he was telling us, Dr. Ed was telling us a story about an individual he met. I think it was on an airplane or something.
No, was it an airplane? Or wasn't it that student he was talking to?
Right, it was a student.
And he was like saying like, there was this Catholic guy that came from one of his talks and he was like, Dr. Edward Sri, like after your talk, I just realized like I'm a relativist. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, don't you believe in the Catholic Church? Yeah, I do. But only for me. So he didn't believe it for other people. He believed it for himself. So that's where he was saying like, oh, wait, what? And so he started asking questions about like, do you support abortion? No, I don't support abortion for me.
Right.
But for someone else, they can.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this lens of, you know, moral relativism, but really what Dr. Edward Sri like started asking him questions upon, which he wasn't able to even see within himself until he went to Christ. Like this young Catholic man went to adoration and like had a conversation with the Lord after talking with Edward Sri, and then the following day he approached Dr. Edward Sri and he's like, I know the reason why I'm a relativist. It's because I want premarital sex to be okay for me.
Yeah.
So the fact that the church said premarital sex wasn't good, he didn't abide by it. Yeah. So that's when he started becoming a relativist, because now at least one of the doctrines he didn't abide in. And so that's when his viewpoint started to change. Because
it was relative based on the context. And in this case, his like context versus other people's context.
Yes.
Or like the Catholic Church's context.
Yes.
I see.
So even though that he was a practicing Catholic, there was in a way a contradiction within himself that he